the one of the most important point I would like to highlight here is that whenever any of the enterprises or any of the unit which goes for any certification, for that matter FSC or PEFC, they have to pay a huge amount of fee. And a part of that fee, which accounts 30 to 40% of the total fee, goes as AAF or the notification fee. So what is this AAF? This is an annual administration fee which directly goes to the FSC. What is this notification fee? This is a fee which is being shared with the PFC as part of their administration. So can you imagine? Today we have 1300 FSC certified COC certificates in India. Can you imagine how much will be the amount that is going to a different domain, which is FSC? Similarly, we have certain COC certificates in for PFC under NCCF, and that is also having a part of the notification fee. Is this required? How we need to take into account then when we are doing these audit for plywood industry, the small players in the market, how we are addressing that? And for example, do we have the certified area for the small players in the market? It's all the market driven process. We have companies like ITC, we have companies like TNPL, we have companies like Greenply. They are the ones, they are the bigger players in the market. They can still afford to go for these certification. They can get the plantation under the agroforestry model certified. But what about the other small players? From where they can get the certified material? They are importing that if at all there is a requirement of a buyer sitting somewhere in Europe or US. So can you imagine, at times what happened with the industry, the small players, that they reject these kind of, consignments. Reason is that if they import the raw material, which is certified under certain scheme, then the processing will take place, and then the entire process of delivering that certified material will be even more expensive, further taking the cost of the audit. So can you imagine, this is a huge amount of money which is involved into this entire process. Is it affordable for the small players in the market? We really need to think on these aspects. Now, second point is that what kind of environmental, social, and economic benefits have been evaluated so far in last 15 years, especially when I talk about the exporters, the small players, the manufacturers in the market. Is there any kind of an assessment which is being done for them, that if they are selling the certified material, be it FSC or PEFC, any kind of benefit which they have observed with respect to environmental, social, and economic benefit? Then we can certainly say this is a sustainable standard or sustainable certification scheme. So we need to think on these points. We need to get back to the industry. These certification schemes are the voluntary certification schemes. These are the certification schemes which are market-driven certification schemes. And the third point is that when we talk about issues related to the traceability, which still exist, and our chain of custody under these certification scheme, which actually falls into the manufacturer wing, is this being answered so far? And if it is this answered, then let me go back to this EUTR and the Lacey Act. Still, small manufacturers who are the exporters, they are having constraint with respect to EUTR. Despite of the fact they are FSC certified, despite of the fact they are PFC certified. At times I've heard in many of the forums that it is very much linked to the EUTR, it is very much linked to the Lacey Act, or the Australian Illegal Logging Act, but it is not. If you can clearly say and go to the FSC website, they clearly state that trading certified material does not result in exemption from due diligence requirement by EUTR. The certification is just to complement that. Whenever you are doing any chain of custody certificate, you are already keeping all the documents on record. By default, when you go through the due diligence process, you can use those records in order to prove that this is a legal and verified source. but your certificate will not going to answer that this is a legal and verified source. So here you can see you are duplicating the process, when you are exporting. The second thing which falls over here is, even you look into the Lacey Act or Australian Illegal Logging Prohibition Act, they are also clearly stating that law doesn't require certification or verification. It needs to be checked that you do a risk assessment. If your individual buyer sitting in US is asking for the certification, they're just asking it to reduce their own risk. There is no other purpose which will clarify that you are verifying the US Lacey Act, or for that matter of Australian Illegal Logging Prohibition Act. So can you imagine that this issue of traceability is answered by certification schemes, these international certification schemes, where we are putting a lot of money and that goes under AF for the notification fees. Is it affordable for the small and the marginal players in the market right now? Now, the second thing which I would like to highlight over here, there is a connect. There is a producer, there is a manufacturer. When we talk about sustainable frameworks under the certification, it could not be same for the agroforestry as what it is there for the forestry. And similarly, if I talk about the manufacturer, the sustainability framework could not be the same. So there are three different entities which are involved into this entire process. We need to streamline the process. And how do we do that? We always sit on the first edge, that we are talking to start from the forest, we are talking to start from agroforestry. No, we have to go back to the market. We need to understand that what are the challenges, what are the market. As I've heard that somebody has mentioned about, we do not require certification in the domestic market. Absolutely correct. Nobody is asking for the certification in the domestic market, but lot of plywood and the veneer goes into the building and construction. Most of the construction which is happening across in India are also moving towards the green building related infrastructures. So the kind of process which is required here is needs to be certified. And can't we do it domestically, so that the small and the marginal farmer should not pay the cost which is going to the international agency somewhere, uh, related to AAF or NCCF, or sorry, notification fees. We have to develop an important domestic framework looking into the market driven process, starting from the industry. Take forward their questions, take forward their concerns. They are facing the challenges, they cannot afford these audits, they cannot afford the kind of import duty, buying a certified material. They could not afford to take forward these initiatives, and therefore they just reduce off, they just drop the idea of export from their mind, and that is leading to the decline from the export from the market. So we are losing the perspective here. So domestic framework has to start right from the market. There has to be a consensus where it needs to get with the agroforestry model. We need to think, where is the nodal agency here for the agroforestry model? Do we need to sit with Ministry of Environment and Forest? Do we need to sit with the Ministry of Agriculture? Do this needs to go into the Ministry of Commerce, where that needs to be resolved? Because at the end of the day, who is actually facing the challenge? There is no connect between demand and supply. The forest issues are going in a different direction, whereas the manufacturer and the producer, they are facing different challenges, and there is no connect. So I'm just, these are my point of view. I've been in this industry. I've seen the kind of constraint and the challenges which are there. So one of the most important point which I really felt is to create the connect. The lobby of the foresters are sitting in a different way. The lobby of the agroforestry people are sitting in a different domain, and the lobby of people who are into the manufacturing, they are working in different domain. Now we have to connect all of them. We have to bring all the things, we have to put the things on the table, and we have to develop a digital framework or a digital infrastructure where we say that the things should regulate in line of the market, in line of domestic demand. How do we ensure sustainability in the chain? I'm not talking about traceability, I'm only talking about sustainability. And sustainability, within sustainability, there is a very small parameter which talks about traceability also. So we need to know about the ESG frameworks, we need to know about the traceability, and we have to develop that framework which qualifies sustainable procurement by a manufacturer, at the same time sustainable agroforestry model, how the producers are involved into this process, how we develop a mechanism, very streamlined process. There are very important checklists that could be taken care by any of the third party to do that assessment, and then we call it as it is a kind of certification scheme. I would say the rich assessment, which goes under the legality, it is not a sustainable certification scheme, it looks into the legality framework. So similar kind of structure can be developed for the domestic market. Then I believe strongly that the complexity in the customs and the procedures which are there, the quality of transport infrastructure, it actually, there is no one size fit for all institutional arrangement for the countries. So here somewhere ministry needs to look into this account, that how they facilitate this entire system, so that the issues which the handicraft industry is facing, the issue which the plywood industries are facing, they should be aligned. So we need to, we should not diversify ourselves with lot of standards in the market to make people more confused. We need to simplify it so that it is very easy to understand. At the end of the day, somebody who is a manufacturer, it's not well versed of Lacey Act or EUTR or bigger regulation as some of the people sitting in a higher position or bigger companies. For them, a simple, affordable system under the digital framework could be a possible solution. How we can do that? The system needs to map down the entire supply chain, identify the inherent risk which are involved into this process, profiling of the people, profiling of the agencies, the enterprises which are involved into this process, whether it's the manufacturers, whether it's the farmers, or whether we are talking about any of the wood which is being procured from any of the state forest department. So the profiling is required in 3 different domains over here. And then, some kind of analytics, because the digitalization is so smart these days, automatically when you have data in it, it analyzes the entire supply chain. It will help you to understand the challenges to a way, so that we can actually work on those things in future. And then of course, when these kind of digital frameworks are being set up, it's very important to educate people, so they are not misguided. There is no greenwashing which is taking place, which is happening. When I talk about FSC or PFC in the market, people have lot of limited knowledge with respect to these frameworks. Now, before moving to the next part, I would like to exclude it, because I've already covered this aspect, that we need to have a dedicated agenda when we talk about sustainability. It should not be limited to traceability or legality, but it need to look into the broad perspective of material, energy, water, emissions. When we are talking about the Paris Agreement, we need to look into 2 degrees Celsius, and then how the operations are ensuring the emission, how we are looking into the supplier assessment, the grievance mechanisms. So all these things are very important apart from the traceability. And here I'm talking from the manufacturer perspective. And there are a lot of ways with which this sustainability framework moves, capacity building workshop, understanding what are your material issue. Within the plywood industry, you need to understand what is, having a major impact to your business, what is important for your stakeholder. If you have a domestic market, you require this. If you need to export, you are an exporter, you require this. So understand what are your critical issue, market, and come up with these critical issues and how you can work on those framework, and develop a reporting structure. Once you decide as an industry, for example, I'm a plywood industry, I'm a veneer industry, I'm working there, I wanted to know what are my sustainability issues. I need to know what is important for my industry, for my trade. And then one of the part is, of course, the certification if I'm an exporter, because it's a market driven process. I start working on all the frameworks, and then I develop a reporting framework to present to the world that yes, I am transparent in terms of my ESG commitment or the sustainability commitment. So purpose of me getting into this particular session was to demystify that, see, certification schemes and sustainability are, are interlinked, but certification is not all what sustainability is. Sustainability is ocean, and certification is part to evaluate the process, and that is true in a voluntary way. With this, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. On behalf of Intertech, I would thank IWST for organize this event and giving me the opportunity to speak on these aspects. Thank you very much.